Before I actually get started with this video, let me just say that even though you see Viola Davis on the screen, this video is not an indictment on her as a person or as an actress. I'm just posting her up because of some of the comments that she made, but what I'm about to address could be blanketed over several other actresses in Hollywood who tend to constantly and consistently do this when something happens with their film. Now, people were asking me what is my thoughts on The Woman King. I really have some of the same thoughts that a vast majority of the people have. I just don't plan on seeing this movie. And someone had asked me would I do a review on it. I said that would actually require me having to watch the movie and and then I would have to give my opinion, but I do not want to see this movie at all. It didn't really appeal to me even when I first heard of its announcement. I believe it was like last year sometime. And I looked at the title. I said, The Woman King. I said that title just seems very off-putting to me. And therefore, I said I don't think I would want to see it. The trailer was trailer trickery because when you look at the trailer, you think it's one thing, and then from people I saw, you go watch them. They went to watch the movie, and it was something completely and utterly different from what was being presented. And they keep putting it, out there and, learning more and more about who these women were and how they participated in the slave trade and a host of other things. I'm not going to go into a whole history lesson right here. But something I've noticed is that whenever a lot of actresses in Hollywood, and it doesn't just apply to Viola Davis, but like I said, I'm using her as an example because she's one of the more recent ones to say this. And I've actually talked about this before with another actress. I forgot her name, Elizabeth Banks, a PC actress who did the that whack Charlie's Angels movie a couple years ago, where she was the director and starred in it as Bosley, which we all know Bosley has always been a male character. The only other male character besides Bosley is Charlie, but we only hear him through a speaker box. But she inserted herself in there, and it's like, why do you need to insert yourself considering you already have three women who are considered the angels, and you inserted yourself as a fourth person as if you're like an honorable mentioned angel, when that's definitely not the case. But she had made some of the same comments that Viola Davis did. And those comments are along the lines of, if people don't support these female-led or these female empowerment movies, the reason is because the men don't go and see them. We get tired of having to hear that notion that it's because the men don't go and support them, or we don't like seeing women in strong leading roles, or something along those lines. I just actually got off the phone with Town Biz, and shout out to him, literally right before I started to make this video. And that was one of the topics we were talking about, because I originally wasn't going to make a video about it, but we were talking about it so much that I said, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and talk about it and make a video on it. And we get so tired as men hearing that false narrative that we don't support female-led movies. And I gave Town two examples of female-led movies, or like movies where the female is the lead, and I like their stories. The first one being Tomb Raider, and I'm talking about the Angelina Jolie one that came out back in 2001. I really liked that movie. I actually like the second one too. A lot of people said they didn't really care for the second one, but I like the second one too. And I think it's also because the Lara Croft character was based off, of a video game, and it was at a time when a lot of the video games were very male dominated as far as the characters go, where you have Tomb Raider with the Lara Croft character who kind of broke the mold for female led characters, where she, is all in her name. She raided tombs. She had two pistols. She became an iconic character, and she was dealing with a lot of obstacles and challenges and fighting to survive while discovering artifacts. And of course, her look became iconic. The blue tank top, the brown shorts, the two pistols, and the boots, and the ponytail. Like, that became a very iconic look for her character. Unfortunately, I wish they would have did it in the movie too, so people were like, oh, that's Lara Croft. The other one would be the first Wonder Woman movie that came out back in 2017. I enjoyed that one as well. And, that was, of course, Wonder Woman is like the first lady of the Justice League. So they had to get that one right. And especially since they've been trying to get that Wonder Woman movie off the ground for years. And I had no problems with either one of those films. But the problem is, when it comes to female-led films, you have to tell a very good story. And if you're going to tell a story that's based off of a story, please try to be as accurate as possible, as humanly possible, or very accurate at that. Don't try to throw in agendas or things like that. I think one thing that a lot of men get tired of when it comes to these female-led films is them trying to throw shots or jabs or quote unquote shade at the men in the movies, or make them appear weak. It's like, you don't have to have this female empowerment film and make the men look like they're worthless. Because that's one thing I liked about the Wonder Woman movie, is that she was the only female that was around these men, and guaranteed she was the strongest, because, you know, she was built, you know, out of clay. She was built from a god. She's practically a goddess. But she didn't throw it around in their faces like, you know, I can do all of this because I'm this. She did what she had to do, while also allowing the men who were around her, which was basically the supporting cast, do their thing as well. And she didn't throw it in their face, you know, that she's a strong, powerful female warrior. She didn't do that. And they could have easily went and did that, and it would have took me out of the film. Even with the Tomb Raider character, she didn't throw around her weight as her being this strong female character. Even though she had male characters around her, she didn't throw that into their face about her being the only woman there, or one of the few women there that was like doing or figuring out all the challenges, or finishing all of the missions. But when it comes to a lot of these other movies that have come out in recent years, they keep doing this female empowerment thing that comes off very feminist in tone. And then when you look at who wrote this movie, I'm talking about the Woman King, who wrote this movie, who directed this movie, even though she's considered biracial, who produced and co-produced this movie, and who's the stars or the cast of the movie, then it all starts to make sense. And then from what I'm hearing, and this is from what I hear from people who are in the movie, who saw the movie, they basically were saying how, like, you know, like some of the like men in the movie, like they just made them appear weak. And they had the women be these strong, domineering forces. And we know where that comes from. That's that feminist sphere that's doing all of that. We know that's exactly where it's coming from. But then you have the nerve to try to shame black men into going to see this movie. Now, remember, Tiffany Cross, who I just did a Blacarian video on, sat up there and was trying to shame black men and saying that we need to get in line with the black women. So you can literally take this from movies into other outlets of the media, where again you have another black woman who Tiffany Cross is a Blacarian, or as I call her, Big Sister Loudmouth, again trying to tell black men what to do. First off, Tiffany, you are none of our mothers, so I don't know who you think you're talking to, and in that tone to be that disrespectful. We do not have to fall in line with anything that you say. And then had the nerve to try to say that black men are being ignored. She just did that. She contradicted herself literally in multiple sentences within a minute. So you have that narrative right there. And I bet you she loved the Woman King. I bet she loved it. And speaking of love, when I was in a Twitter space, when they were talking about boycott the Woman King, it was one person in there who said that they ended up seeing the movie, and it was a guy. He said he ended up seeing the movie with his wife, and you can tell by his tone that he was disgusted and it had true disdain with what he saw. Like, you could tell he didn't even want to see it, but because his wife wanted to see it, he went and saw it. And he said he didn't like it. I was talking to Town, and he said that he went on a date with someone, and he said that he saw it and he didn't like it either. It had the same tone as the guy that I just mentioned. And then one thing I had asked him was, what did your date think, like the person you went to go and see it with? And he said that she loved it. And I think with the guy who was in the space, he said his wife loved it. So now I'm seeing a pattern here. Of course, a lot of the women, and this is not all women because some women didn't like it. Shout out to the Crimson Cure. She tore this movie apart. And some other women did as well because they know the real. But some of them they are so entrenched in this fantasy of these strong women going around doing all these things. I said, keep in mind, this is just a movie that's supposed to be based on true events, but it's a lot of fallacies and plot holes here. Don't go out in the streets thinking you're going to do that, because that's another thing. Well, I think a lot of women be seeing these movies with these strong women in it and seeing them do all these things and think they're going to run up on a man and do these things. And they find out that they're not on a film set. They're not on a television set. There's no cameras around. There's no director to yell action and cut. You run up on a dude like that and you see what happens. Don't let these movies, fiction or not, fool you out here. I'm just saying. I've seen way too many videos with a lot of these women out here thinking they're going to run up on a man like they do in these movies, and they find out otherwise. They get humbled real fast. Swift, quick, and in a hurry. And that's another message that I don't like when they come to these type of movies, is them it's almost like them programming women to go out there and think that they can fight the world. You can't fight the world. A lot of people don't even want you to go out there and try to fight the world. Just stay in your lane is what we're saying. That's it. And there's no problem with doing that. It's absolutely no problem with doing that. None whatsoever. But yeah, back to my original point of people trying to shame black men into doing this, or watching this movie, or liking this movie, or any type of movie that along these lines, y'all can just stop it. It's not going to work. They did the same thing with that Harriet movie, and the movie still flopped. No matter how hard they pushed, it did not work. They tried to do the same thing with the WNBA, saying, men need to support the WNBA. Why not the women? Isn't it for the women? The W does stand for women last time I checked. Why aren't they going out there to support it? It's for them. The people playing on the court are women. But I bet you, if the Lakers came to town, you're going to find a lot of women in that crowd wearing LeBron jerseys. I'm just saying. You'll probably find a lot more women going to a Lakers game than a Sparks game. I couldn't name one person on the Sparks. And I can name a couple of WNBA players. I remember someone had posted up on Twitter a while ago. They said name 5. No, it was Bill Burr. He said name 5 WNBA players past the present. Then he said name 5 WNBA teams. Or can you even name the WNBA team that's hosted in your city? Can you name your home team? A lot of women could not do that. But I bet you if you ask them name 5 NBA players past the present, 5 NBA teams, or your home team, they could name all of those 5 past the present, 5 NBA teams and their home team like it's nothing. But you're going to sit up there and tell us that the men need to go and support, or that the NBA needs to be more supportive. If the NBA decided to pull that contract and all those funds, the WNBA would cease to exist. Let's keep in mind who's keeping who afloat and who isn't, who's trying to stay afloat. And this is not a dig at the WNBA. It's a dig at those people who have these talking points. But I think I pretty much got out everything that I needed to say when it comes to this particular subject matter. I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall, though, because I know it's going to come back up again and again and again. Maybe if they didn't lead with so-called women empowerment all the time, they could actually tell a decent story. One that's actually watchable and enjoyable, and at the very least tolerable, digestible. Even if they didn't like it, they could say, I tolerate the movie for what it was. It just wasn't for me, but at least it has some enjoyable moments. I don't know anybody who has reviewed this movie that I've seen so far that could even say what I just said. I don't know anyone who said that I'll put it this way. Those people who said they enjoyed the movie, I highly doubt they know the history about what they watched. Because whenever you do a movie that's based on true events, one thing you should want to do is look up the history of whatever it is that they're talking about, then watch the movie and see if they covered it or not. And that'll determine whether or not it was really good. Town Biz, he stays on this, and that's the Respect movie. And I actually did a poll in my chat about the movie Respect with Jennifer Hudson. I asked people in my poll, and it was the one that I did about the Whitney Houston biopic called I Want to Dance with Somebody. I asked people in the chat or in a poll, did anyone see the movie Respect with Jennifer Hudson? And I think about less than half of the people said yes, and over half said no. Now, keep in mind, I was talking about that Whitney Houston biopic that's being played by a non-FBA actress, and Jennifer Hudson being an FBA actress and being tapped by Aretha Franklin herself to play her. Whitney Houston didn't know this actress from a can of paint. She probably wasn't even acting at the time when Whitney was still alive. Most likely not. But y'all want these movies though. But you can't support them. Nate Parker. Poor Nate Parker. Do I really need to actually go into a whole diatribe or whole soliloquy about that? I don't think so. But look at what they tell you to support and what they want you to go against. King Richard is another one. You had these PC feminists out there saying, why is there a movie about Richard Williams? There should be a movie about Venus and Serena. They're the stars. What? Excuse me. Richard Williams was the one that helped create the stars. If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't know who Venus and Serena Williams were or are. But then again, they had to find a way to try to remove the man, the father, more importantly, out of the situation, a black father at that. I remember when they did that, and a lot of y'all remember it too. But it doesn't matter because the movie was a success. It got Will Smith his first Oscar. So it is what it is. But anyway, tell me what you think about this down in the comments. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell twice to be notified. If for any reason you are not notified by the bell, I upload my videos in a Premiere style format, which means you can click the notify me button at the bottom left or bottom right of the thumbnail, and you should receive the notification that way. The links will be down in the description. I will talk to you in the next one.